What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. This is my first YouTube video of the whole year. I just been neglecting YouTube for whatever reason, and I want to stop doing that so you guys can have more long form content of, you know, how these conversations go when you go out and share the gospel and evangelize, to show you guys like it's possible to go have a conversation with someone where it doesn't feel like you're forcing, and you can kind of draw people into the love of God instead of, you know, just yelling at people and being kind of weird about it, you know? So I hope you guys are able to enjoy this video, see the conversation and learn from it. I'll see you guys in the next clip.
Sean?
All right, I'm KP. So I'm just asking people today a random question, like, what do you think happens to us if we pass away? Like, where will we go, unfortunately, if we died?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, okay. Nothing, sorry.
So how did you land in this perspective? Have you always, you know, thought that way?
I mean, I think consciousness is just sort of a chemical reaction, so if those chemicals aren't swirling around, your consciousness is gone.
Oh, okay. And so, like, kind of like you picture like an ant dying or something, like nothing, you don't really picture much happens to an ant, like if you step on it, right? And so you think this, like, the same applies to us, kind of? Like, where it's just like an end of existence?
I mean, it's an end of existence, yeah, but, yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't, like, live life to the fullest and all that shit, so...
Right. Okay. But would you say, you know, like, there's no souls or anything like that? You don't think, like, you have a soul? Okay.
No, sorry.
Sure.
No.
And so did you always, you know, grow up, like, thinking like that? Or did you ever have, you know, like, a perspective that you had some hope in for afterlife?
I grew up agnostic, and I was actually encouraged to explore different religions and everything, and none of them just really landed. It all just didn't quite work for me.
Got you. Okay. So I was pretty similar. Like, I was an atheist for a very, very long time, actually. And so I would, like, debate people for fun, like, as a hobby. Right. To, like, tell them God's not real, whatnot, and...
That's not shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of weird, but...
No, faith is fine. Faith is good. Like, if it fulfills people, it's great.
No, true. Yeah, and so, but I, like, had this very just negative heart towards it for, you know, I guess some other reasons, but one day I was debating this person, right, and then I asked them, can you just pray for me to see the truth, whether I want to believe this or not? And so typically people don't have encounters like this, but for me, I had an encounter. Like, when they prayed for me, I had, like, this experience, and it was, like, just one of the most real feelings I've ever had. And so that led me to, like, believe in a God, but I still kind of had it all wrong, because that led me to live kind of, like, puffed up in my heart, where I'm, like, judging people for living bad, and I'm like, I have to live so holier than thou, right?
Right.
Like, that's kind of what a lot of people think they have to do to follow God. But then I actually learned something called the gospel. Have you ever heard of anything called the gospel before?
I mean, I've read the Gospels.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I've read the Bible.
Okay. And so you know it means, like, good news, gospel?
Yeah.
So out of what you've read from it, what do you think makes it good news? Like, why do people call it that?
I mean, it was written by people, so it's not... I mean, I don't really believe in a deity, so it doesn't really matter what's written in this book as much as it matters what's written in any other book. Yeah. So, I mean,
sure.
But again, if people take something from it and it makes them feel better, absolutely. Embrace that. Have fun.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think I could share a quick perspective of why I found it to be good news?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So basically, I learned, like, all of us have, you know, messed up in some way.
Sorry.
Like, all of us haven't lived a perfect life, right?
Of course.
And so that's kind of like where God's love comes in. Like, even though we didn't live perfectly, he came down in a perfect form and lived a perfect life for us. So we all had this punishment awaiting us. But God, in his love, took that punishment on our behalf. And
but
so...
who punished you to begin with?
Ourselves, through our disobedience. You know, we were born into...
I mean, by that logic, it kind of sounds like the God who loved you enough to not punish you was also the one who was punishing you.
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't want to punish us. He actually took that punishment on himself. And so...
But he set that punishment to begin with, right?
No, well, he's just... Like, if you think of God, he's got to be just. You're fine. It's no problem. So when you think about, like, God, if he's a perfect God, he would be perfectly, you know, just, right? Like, he would care about justice. Sure. You know? And so when he sees, you know, like, evil, he can't just, like, sweep it under the rug. Like, evil would have to get, you know, addressed.
Didn't he do that?
He did. He addressed it. But he addressed it through, you know, putting that justice onto his son, instead of killing us, he actually killed his perfect son for us, you know. And
But
so
why
that
would he do that instead of just not establishing the punishment to begin with? Like,
because he's just.
but that's not justice, really.
Well, it's justice because
You
you're.
killed an innocent person to like make up for the sins of
Yeah.
people who weren't innocent.
Well, it's kind of like this. Like if you got pulled over and you have a speeding ticket,
It would
and
be
then
like the cop shooting himself to like.
no, it would be
prove
like
that
the
it's
cop.
okay.
It would be like the cop saying, "I'll pay it for you. Like this is a $500 ticket. I'll give you the 500." And that's kind of what Jesus did for us. You know, we had this debt. He didn't, but he said, "I'm gonna pay the debt that you owe, simply because I love you and I want to be with you."
So wouldn't it be more logical to say like, hey, we're gonna let this slide?
Well, I mean, that would make him unjust. You know, because that would be just like, oh, I don't care about,
Is it
you know.
just to kill a perfect innocent person for everybody else?
If that person is willing to lay their life down, you know, that would be kind of weird if it was like, I just pick you, you die for them. But
Didn't he?
no, it was because it was Jesus who was in perfect unity with the Father.
All right.
And so it was a mutual agreement between them that, you know, I'm going to lay my life down for my creation.
Sure.
And, you know, through love, I hope they can receive the grace that I gave them, you know, because it really puts it into perspective. Like, he did it whether we, you know, accept it or not. Like, he still did it for us. And so it really, like, puts that, you know, hope in our heart of, like, dang, how could we even come close to such a loving God who is willing to go to the extreme of, you know, sacrificing his own son for a creation who might appreciate it and they might not. It really just shows, like, the picture of God's heart, to where it's like his love for us is more than we can truly even know. And, you know, it's kind of a faith thing to accept because it sounds so broad, but that's where I found hope through, you know,
And like I said,
the good news.
faith is good.
Yeah.
Faith is good, but the very premise still seems kind of flawed to me. Just because, like I said, he established the rules. He could change the rules.
Yeah.
He decided this is right and this is wrong and this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
You guys aren't doing exactly what I want you to do, so I'm going to kill this guy over here
Yeah.
for you guys.
Yeah. Well, he volunteered.
Why
you know?
didn't he just like come down here and say like, guys, stop fucking up. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, we can't, because, you know, we're always gonna mess up, and he
Right.
knew that.
But why make it an elaborate sort of
Yeah.
thing instead of just saying like, why not just show up
Yeah.
and say, hey, I want you guys to do this. Look, I'm real. I want you to do this.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that.
Right. I hear what you're saying, but also at the same time, like, if this is true, if this is God, we're kind of saying, God, you didn't do it the way I think it should be done, therefore you're not God and I'm not going to trust it. And then we got to kind of think, like, who is God? If this is real, does it have to fit my understanding, or should I accept what God has, you know, somewhat established, you know, if it is true? But if we have to think, no, God must mold to my understanding, then I don't think, even if it did come across that way, I don't know if we would ever accept this as truth, no matter how much it might make sense.
I mean, if what you're
You know?
doing is... No, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. I mean, if you're going to do things that are illogical and excessively complicated
Yeah.
and cryptic, like, why bother? Like, why do it that way? If you want people to actually listen,
Yeah.
why make it cryptic?
Yeah. I mean, I really, when you really try to grasp what the gospel is, it doesn't really come off too illogical, because, I mean, God is perfectly loving, he's perfectly just. So therefore he can't overlook sin, but he also wants to give us love. And so he solved this paradox of being fully loving and fully merciful through putting the justice on himself, on paying that fine for us. Like, if a police officer, you know, loves his son, loves his child,
But I like I like your metaphor of like the cop and everything, because it's pretty much the same, right? Like, Jesus kind of went through a bad day more than anything else, like, because he is also God, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Trinity. So he kind of went through a bad day. It's kind of like a cop saying, I'm going to pay this fine. But ultimately, I know it's going to be refunded by taxpayers anyway, so. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I kind of view it as the same thing. Like, it's not that big of a sacrifice if you know that you're going to be fine in, like, a couple hours.
Yeah, but that's at the end of the day, he didn't have to do it.
No, he didn't.
But it just reveals the love. Like, the cop wouldn't have to do that.
But that's my point.
But
he didn't have to do any of it.
Yeah. And so...
He created a system
Right.
that put himself in that situation. So why create that system?
Yeah. Well, do you think, like, if you got, like, a why, that would convince you that it's real? Or, you know?
I mean, if God comes down and tells me why,
because one of, like...
I'll listen to him.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
For sure. Yeah, and so, like, one thing that I read personally in the Bible today, it was, like, in Job, it said, what is man that you think so much of him,
Man,
you know?
poor fucking Job.
Yeah, right? He went through it. And so it's like, that kind of question will always, you know, burden in us, kind of like, why? Like, why is it this way? And instead of, like, trying to understand, because I don't know, it kind of makes me think, like, who am I to even think I can understand God's why? You know, if God is God, if he is who he says he is, how could I even grasp his why? And so it kind of, like, lifts that burden of trying to feel, you know, confirmed before accepting. Because it's like, if I just have to confirm with God and then believe him, that's not faith. That's just confirmation. It would take no faith to say it's dark outside. I can confirm that. You know, it would take no faith to go, oh, God, you did it because of this, 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 and this, and this. Makes perfect sense. I get it now. I'll believe. You know, that's not faith. But it takes tremendous faith to go, even though I don't understand, you said you did this for me and you say you love me, and I'm going to accept that. You know, because it's a free gift. You don't lose anything by accepting his free sacrifice, you know?
Sure, but on the topic of faith, like, what you're doing is you're relying on people who are, let's face it, in the history of, like, Christianity and Catholicism, there have been some, like, shady dudes telling me to have faith.
Yeah.
That's like the person you don't trust at all coming out and saying, like, hey, it's dark outside. You're not going to believe him on faith.
Yeah. If I can confirm it, then
If
I wouldn't
you
need
can
to.
confirm it,
Yeah.
right. But if you can't confirm it, are you just going to believe it?
Right.
Right.
And so that's where, like, it comes to just how we analyze ourselves.
Sure.
When I look at myself, am I truly a person, like, if heaven and hell is real, am I truly a person that deserves to go there?
You're fine.
Hey, you're good.
I got you. Yeah, of course.
Like, because in Romans 3:20, it tells us, like, the law is there to show us we're guilty. Like, when we compare ourselves to God's standard, we fall short,
Yeah, of course.
right? So if we compare ourselves to God's standard, we fall short.
Mm-hmm.
So then it opens up the door of, if heaven is real, how do I get there? Because I can't earn it. I can't work my way to it. And that leaves the only option of accepting it as a free gift, which was given by God himself out of love. And so that's where it's like the faith points me towards there, because I know for a fact I cannot earn my way to an eternal, perfect heaven. Like, I don't deserve that, you know? But God opens that door for us through what he did.
Why don't you think you deserve that?
Oh man, I can be pretty selfish. I can be very just mean to people at times. Like,
But didn't he make you that way?
no, I don't believe he made me that way,
Then why are you that way?
because I believe that I have this flesh that, you know, fell short, and
But he
that's
made the
basically
flesh.
he made the flesh, but he didn't make it corrupt. And so
Who corrupted it?
that's where, you know, Adam and Eve come in, and there's
Sure,
this
okay, all right.
the knowledge of good and evil, and that's a whole, you know, rabbit hole. But even then, it's like, well, if we have to come up with all the whys instead of the acceptance of, okay, this is what it is.
But you need to get
Then-
past the whys to get to the acceptance part. So if the whys aren't really answered, which to me they're not really, then how is somebody supposed to get to the acceptance part? Like, he created Adam and Eve. He said, like, hey, don't eat this apple over here.
Yeah.
Why do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a choice of love. Like, if I'm this loving God, why would I give you an option where you can't, you know,
But he,
leave me? If you want to leave me, true love is, okay, if you want to leave, you can go.
Yes.
And so that's the option. Like, God gave us that option. You know, so it's up to the choice of, do I want to be with God, my Father, for eternity, or do I want to not be with him? And that's literally what hell is. It's just separation from God. And God is good, God is love, God is joy, he is peace. And so if I'm away from that, then I have the opposite of that only. And that's kind of what hell is described as. You know, just the lacking God's presence.
By that logic, do you think that everyone's an atheist is currently living in hell?
I believe people who haven't accepted that free offer of, you know, Christ's sacrifice, that we're all, like, the default location for everybody is hell, because we all don't deserve heaven. None of us deserve heaven, and so the default is hell. But God gave us a free gift to not go there, whether we, you know, accept that grace, or we say, God, I didn't need you to do that for me. I'm living fine, and I'll take my chance.
So,
you know?
The default is hell.
Yeah.
People who have not accepted Jesus currently live in hell.
Yeah, I would say not accepting the grace of God.
Okay.
Because someone might never even hear the name of Jesus, you know?
Do I seem unhappy? Do I seem unhappy?
No, I'm saying, well, I don't think you're in hell right now.
Well, I'm an atheist. I haven't accepted God in any way.
Sure.
I feel fine.
Yeah, I'm not saying you wouldn't. I felt pretty fine when I was an atheist.
So if my eternity is this,
yeah,
that's fine.
well, I don't. So what it said in the Bible is that God's Spirit is poured upon all of the earth.
Okay.
And so all flesh have encountered the grace of God. And so, of course, we can have moments of peace and, you know, joy here on this earth from what I believe his Spirit's poured out. But in hell, like, his Spirit isn't there, is what we learn. And so, obviously, not to, like, I'm not going to convince you, and I don't want to even convince you of this, but yeah. But just to, you know, share a perspective that maybe you never heard before, because I know a lot of people get turned off from Christianity because they think, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to, you know, change everything. And it's really more about just a relationship with God than a set of rules. It's really deeper than a rule book, you know? But yeah.
What's your YouTube channel?
KP Serves.
KP Serves. Okay.
Good to meet you.
Likewise, I'm
What was
Sean.
your name? Sean?
Yeah.
Good to meet you. Thank you for letting me chat with you.
Yeah, of course. Have a good night, guys.
You guys, that's going to wrap up the video. Thanks for tuning in. That conversation went, you know, kind of well. I think it was a good seed planted in his heart, I believe. You know, a lot of people have these why questions, and they'll never end, guys. Those whys will never run out. There's never going to be a point in time where someone's like, oh, that makes sense. Now I believe in God. It's not going to happen. It might seem like it's something to keep engaging with, but it's really not. You more just want to make them, you know, leave the conversation feeling, you know, edified, heard, and just spoken to, rather than trying to bash perspective into them. So I hope you guys can learn from that and really just maybe you had some of those whys in your own life and they did get answered for you in some way. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next video soon.